excellent stuff. This one is called a mola, and it is made by the Kuna Indians. It took about a year to make this. It's a wedding dress used in Afghanistan.
It's beautiful.
It's an actual dress.
Gorgeous. So it's full size.
Yes, it comes to about my shoulder. It's a little too small for me.
So thank you for the tour of your home gallery. That was very nice.
It's a very small studio apartment.
So which part of Sao Paulo are you in?
I'm in the centro. It's Paulista. And it's a Plaza Franklin Roosevelt.
Great.
And that's the church's Consolação. I love it here because of the view that I just showed you.
Yeah, the view is amazing. It's César, right? The pronunciation of the name?
César.
César.
Unless you're in Spain, which is César.
Okay. So César, thank you very much for your time today to talk a little bit about the origins of Rennert and also what is going on today related to the situation that we're now in.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
I'd like to begin by just going to break the language barrier. And I understand that that's a phrase that has been part of Rennert from the beginning.
Break the language barrier. We've been using that phrase since I started school 46 years now. And to be honest, it's been so long that I forgot exactly how I came up with it. But I do know that when we sent it to copyright lawyers to have it registered trademark, they were sure that I would not be able to do it because it was a phrase used so often. And everybody was very surprised when it was accepted and we could use it and register it. That was 1973. You weren't even born then.
Well, I was, but yeah, thank you. I understand that you're also learning a language and that you're already a multilingual.
I grew up at home. My parents spoke German with each other, and I was born and grew up until the age of 13 in Panama, where we spoke Spanish, of course. And then the Canal Zone at the time was right there, and my only first cousin got married to a gringo, and when she got married, I was the ring man, and we called my cousin Tío Gringo. Meaning in Panama, gringo were Americans, not like in Brazil where a gringo is a foreigner. We moved to the United States in 1955, and of course, English became the main language. And then when I was in college, I went to spend 2 years in Paris. I studied political science at Sciences Po. I was 19, 20 years old the first time I went to Paris. I fell in love with it immediately, and it was easy for me to learn French because of my Spanish background. There you are. And then I went to school in New York as a graduate student, and then I went to Madrid as a graduate student for 2 years, where I got my master's through New York University. And then I came back to work on my PhD, and stayed in New York, made New York my home. I fell in love with New York, like so many people do when they come to New York. It's a great city. Although I love big cities, I love where I am now, Sao Paulo. It's a great, and it's also because it reminds me a lot of New York. I find that because we're not traveling, we're forced to write a lot, and we're forced to communicate the way we are right now. And we are, because of all that, we're forced into using other languages. And I learned Portuguese much faster than I would otherwise have. I have many friends here who don't speak a word of anything but Portuguese, and so I'm forced into speaking it. And also, we can't really see each other. We write to each other an awful lot these days. And I've been forced into learning to write. And I'm sure that it's the same thing with you. I'm sure that...
Yes, I am finding that I'm writing more, I'm speaking more in Spanish because I'm here more. I'm not going anywhere else.
It's interesting. I don't know if you have a way of trying to remember words. There's a word that I encounter, and I write it in very large red letters, and then especially at my age, when as you become older, it's more difficult to learn a new language, only because your memory is not as good. I had a friend. He was pretty well known. He ran for mayor of New York, and he claimed that he spoke 22 languages. He used to say there were many dead moments in your life that you should take advantage of, like being in the elevator. And he would be in the elevator for a few minutes, and he would take out a card with words that he would memorize. Or when he was shaving, he would put something on the mirror and would try to remember the word while he was shaving. All those minutes that we waste in our day, you could be learning in new languages. Or when I was in Paris, I made a point of not speaking to anyone that spoke anything but French. It's an effort, but it's fun, and ultimately you learn much faster. So that's what we hope you do when you come to New York.
Right. You also mentioned to me that particularly with the younger generation, there are lots of abbreviations and new words that are circulating that we didn't use in the past.
And very often I find a word, I don't know what it is. I go to my translator, and I find it's not even I can't find it in the translator. And so I'll ask a Brazilian friend, what does this mean? And that's a new word. So many new words because of our computers and because of our WhatsApp conversations. And it's one way to learn these things, but you have to catch up with the young people who are so eager to invent new words.
Right. And I don't remember, you mentioned something about the weekend, but it was in Portuguese. 3 letters that you mentioned about the weekend.
Yes, a weekend. It's the 3 letters for weekend. FDS, fin de semana. It's used all the time here.
Right.
What are you doing this FDS? And the first time I heard, I thought,
So I'm going to ask you now, just to finish off, do you have a message for the students at Rennert in New York or online around the world?
Well, thank you for asking me. I've lived in so many places, and I just mentioned quite a few of those that I lived in, including Panama and Paris and Madrid. And there's nothing like New York. I mean, come to New York and get the experience of living in the most exciting city in the world. It might not be the slow lifestyle that you would like, but you at least experience what New York is, what the present is, what the future is going to be. New York is a city of the 20th and 21st century. And thank you for choosing New York, Rennert and New York as your school. And you'll never regret having come to study with us, Rennert. We're right smack in the middle of town, a half a block away from New York Public Library, and all the exciting things that it and everything else around there can bring you. Thank you very much for this interview. I appreciate it very much.
You're very welcome.
Now I'll make a cake.
Right. What kind of
a
cake?
Brazilian cake.
Is it one of those round ones with the hole in the
yes,
middle?
with a hole in the middle.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.